For guests and visitors, my name is Jim Farmer. I'm president, and I would like to welcome you to the second meeting of the 50th year of the Dublin Worthington Rotary Club. So the invocation and pledge today will be offered by Jerry Cass.
To the supreme being that is your God, we pray today to settle the unrest. The unrest around the war-torn countries, the unrest on the political climate, the unrest with the homeless, the unrest with the sick, the frail, and the bedridden, the unrest with the troubles on our mind and in our hearts. Let us be the tools you use to settle this unrest. Give us wisdom, give us energy, give us perseverance, give us patience, give us tolerance. For these things, we all say, Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jerry knew that he'd be speaking today, so he got all dressed up for the occasion.
He thinks it's in Key West.
Okay, we have a lot of visitors today. Emily, can you come up and introduce a couple of special visitors that we've got?
Not very cold.
Oh.
All right. So we have Steve DeWeese here with us today. He is the past president of the Worthington AM Club, and he will be our exchange students for Phil's family.
No, not all. This is the host. Did you stand? Okay, okay. And now we have a ton of other visitors who are here today. And I ask that you actually just each of you stand and introduce yourselves, because if we do it, it's going to take forever. You guys please stand and introduce yourselves. My name is
Travis Aisley, joining Lisa here, got the invitation and super excited to be here.
I'm Shar Stilley with Holder Bombs Painting, and I'm also a member of the Westerville Sunrise Group.
Vince Elfier, I congratulations for spirit. Yes.
I'm in fact, Hi, my name is Rebecca Lugolas. I'm a visa kind of invited to be and I'm able to be
Kevin, and I just moved back to Worthington about 7 months ago, so just trying to get people to me, and I'm auditioning to use AI. Good. With my Jason Adams, also a franchise owner and spirit.
My name is Chris Wogan. I'm a financial advisor with Foresight Financial, right on the other side of 23. Also an spirit member.
Thank you so much. And we have another visitor one minute right now. Would you please introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm the Hines with USA Group, and I am the guest.
Well, glad to have all of you here today. That's great. Would anyone with announcements please make their way forward at this time? And Jim Miller, I'm talking about you.
It's tree planting time. Sent you an email, but some of you don't read your emails. Some of you don't get your emails. And so I now have to tell you it's tree planting time, and there's a sign-up sheet on the on your table. You will recall we planted some trees before, and if it hadn't been for Al Wu, we wouldn't have planted those trees because the ground is so hard that it takes a fireman to get through it. And so this time, Mike Moulton will be there beforehand and auger out all those holes. So it's gonna be a whole lot easier for you guys because of Mike's efforts. And so I expect you all to sign up. We're gonna plant 4 trees, so that's gonna take a fair amount of work. I will say, even with the hard ground that we had last time, we planted 2 trees in less than an hour and a half. So didn't have to dial 911 for anybody. And so, you know, it's perfectly safe. You can come out September the 14th. It's a bye week for Ohio State football. No excuses, people. Come out, join the fun. Even if you just throw a little dirt back in the hole, you'll certainly be appreciated. Now, my other announcement is to the group of visitors that we have today. Thank you very much. We really appreciate your attendance. Later on, we're going to have a sergeant. They're going to fine everybody. Normally, we do not include visitors. They don't have to pay, except if you're a member of a Rotary Club, you have to pay. Well, I should say I'm the treasurer.
You should all have right now an email from me announcing we will have our next first Ways and Means Committee meeting on August 7th after this meeting at 1 o'clock. I don't know if we'll be in this room or back in the boardroom, but I am encouraging not only the committee members to attend, but any individual who's interested in one of our potential fundraisers. And I sent out the first one of the fundraisers today, which is Night at the Races, which I encourage you to read and see if you have some interest in helping out with that. And if you have any thoughts about that particular fundraiser. I will be out also sending out another email more specific about the entire agenda and another project. So keep your eyes out for those. The Ways and Means Committee will be looking at several new fundraising possibilities. So please do attend if you're interested. Those members, I especially Ways and Means, I especially encourage you to come. Thank you.
Okay, folks, as you should be well aware at this point, we have changed our meeting cadence to 2 meetings like this a month, 1 service project a month and 1 social a month. And it just so happens that we have a service project tomorrow at my office at 400 West Wilson Bridge Road. I believe it starts at 5:30. Limited space available, but I think there's still room for people. So if you are interested in attending, we're going to be building Ronald McDonald House toiletry kits. So if you have stuff to bring to that cause, I believe there's already going to be a lot of stuff there. But if you want to help us put those together, my office, 5:30 tomorrow. You should have a sign-up link in your email. I think Christy requested that if you're going to come, try to sign up to that no later than today. If you just want to show up, I think that's good too. Thank you.
First, Jerry was talking about fines. You forgot to say if you're with Amspirit, you miss your secret greet or handshake, or if your phone goes off, or if you miss your lunch buddy, you're going to have a fine for that too. At any rate, I'm here today to remind you all that we have the Dublin Worthington Rotary Foundation. This is your foundation. We do continue to help people, and we do continue to want for our foundation to grow. We've limited the amount of money that we can gift in order to do that. So if you have extra money in your pockets or in your bank accounts, or you need to figure out a way to get money tax-free out of your IRA and you are old enough, not that anybody in this room is, please think about it for that. Thank you.
Alan, for the minutes of March.
Turn 21 after the next year. Me in the game.
Thank you. So the Dublin Worthington Rotary Foundation looks to find people that need financial assistance for a one-time event with which our help will get them out of that situation. So we have done things like a ridiculous amount of rent. Rents these days are very expensive. We've also helped people fix cars. We've bought wheelchairs for disabled kids, all sorts of things around those types of issues. So we help people relocate from fires. Am I missing anything?
No, that's pretty.
All right, that's a bunch of it. So yeah, we love our foundation. We'd love to see it grow. Thank you. And one more thing, we've moved our foundation meetings now. We're meeting at Steve's office at 400 Wilson Bridge West. And so if for some reason anybody wanted to actually see what our foundation does, by all means, stop by. We meet at 7:30 a.m. on the second Friday of each month. Thank you. Again.
Okay, I have two announcements from your 50th anniversary committee. Announcement number one is, it's kind of a save the date. The dinner will be, don't worry, Lisa, we will not find you. I'm sure they will not find you for that.
No,
Al,
I guess.
don't call her during your announcement. First is to save the date. The dinner is going to be September 25th, 6:30 to 9:30, Worthington Hills Country Club. All right, so second dinner, you will be getting, I think maybe Christy already sent it out, kind of a save the date email. Second announcement is this, is that the committee is willing, and we've kind of gotten some direction from the board, that to facilitate ongoing discussions amongst the other standing committees that we have for ideas on how to celebrate the 50th. It's going to be throughout the whole year. Okay, so we meet we're meeting next Friday, and we will send an email for that. But we would really like involvement from the other committees, because it does all involve a lot of the ideas. We brainstorm, we have some great ideas, but it is going to involve your committees as well. So if you could send a representative, that would be great. If not, the committee will continue on doing what we do, but we really would encourage that involvement. So that, yeah. Thank you.
Jim, I should have announced that our club is going to donate school backpacks. What do you call those things? Backpacks through the schools and also through the pantry. How many are we going to donate? 50. You guys, come on. 50. Of course. So that's one of our projects for our 50th anniversary.
Well, Alan has more.
I have a different announcement that I forgot about. Bill Schatz, all remember Bill Schatz. His golf outing is this year on October 7th at Sayota Country Club, Sayota Reserve Country Club. So if you'd like to see an foursome, let me know if you don't know how to do that. Check the Powell Chamber of Commerce website for information. And your club is sponsoring 2 holes
With signs,
one hole, 2 holes with signs, 1 hole with a table. I remember that correctly. So thank you to the club for making that decision. If you hold on, let me know if you want to play, let me know, and I'll help you figure that out.
And I understand there will be jello shots at the table, and Teresa has volunteered to take the charge of that.
Yeah, right. That's always very popular.
Okay, I've been asked on behalf of all the guests we have in the room to give a brief spiel on what Rotary is. And we are an international organization with clubs all over the world. There are 60 to 70, I think, just in this district alone, which is southeastern Ohio. We engage in projects that benefit humans all over the place. This club sponsors scholarships locally, and we sponsor vocational scholarships in the Dominican Republic. In addition, we have done other projects in the Dominican Republic, including the building of a clinic there. We currently have an ongoing project with Mongolia and an ongoing project with Veracruz in Mexico. Those are just the international aspects of what we do. And then locally, we engage in all kinds of projects through our foundation and otherwise to help people locally in all kinds of ways that we can think of. So I'm sure I left out 1,000 things. If anybody else wants to add anything to that, feel free to do so. But I think the key is that we're international, and we are, I think our major accomplishment basically internationally is that we have partnered with, what is the foundation? The Gates Foundation, and we have largely eliminated polio throughout the world. It's been a huge endeavor that's gone on for the last 20 years, I think. And although there are still pockets of polio in places of unrest where it's difficult to get in and do the shots, for the most part, it's been eradicated throughout the world. So that's my little spiel on Rotary. And now I would like to call Lisa to the podium to introduce our speaker today.
Well, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Wait a minute. Lisa, you're not yet. Let's do the start first.
Get your dollar out, Jim. We're gonna do the sergeant because we said. Sergeant, because we said we would. Okay. Well, just, Jim, what you said, Rotary International's kind of elevator speech is we are a global organization of community service volunteers. In a nutshell, that's pretty much it. We volunteer to do work projects all over the world, and not only us in our community, but we do go abroad. But I'll give you a little information there. Let's see who we have. Trent Bowers, my goodness. Come on up here, come on down. Ring the bell for Trent. All right, where's the bucket? Wait a minute. You gotta go back there and get the bucket. Put a couple dollars in, because I haven't been able to find you in a long time. You still look just as young though. And then, I guess one of those is for the picture in the paper that you had a full spread with your picture in it. You want to expound on that, why that was there? I have no idea what you're talking about. I plead the fifth. All right, happy dollars. We got some happy folks out there. I know we got Shirley's happy.
I'm happy.
She's always happy.
Yeah, I am proud. I'm really excited to tell you that my granddaughter was at the White House with the athletes. Her crew team at Tufts University won the national championship. So the men and women were both there, and also the Kenyan college swim team were among that group. It was on the national news. So I'm real proud of Riley. She texted me and said she was grateful that she didn't know. So I never was excited.
Wow. Anybody else? There's a happy dollar.
How could I not be happy today? I'm so glad that all of my guests from Ann Spirit came to this meeting. We are just so blessed to have you here, and hope you enjoy it. I hope you enjoy the program. I'm just thrilled to hear it. So thank you.
All right. Anybody else?
Trent should be happy, Trent. What are you happy about?
Happy to be a Rotary.
Teresa happy for not bringing jello shots. Okay, let's move on. Go over here and get Jerry Katz. You know, when I first joined this club, you were really frowned on when you didn't have a suit and tie, let alone wearing shorts. So, anybody else have shorts on like Jerry? You're one of a kind, Jerry. So, throw a dollar in there for being one of a kind. Oh, Charlie. My goodness, Charlie. That's all right. Charlie's got knee socks. Oh, wait a minute. Zig, get Zig back there too. He can't bend over far enough to put long pants on. So. Okay. All right, we have a few stumper questions for you. Well, we'll see what this crowd knows. As everyone knows, the Summer Olympics are coming up, starting, I believe, Friday in Paris, France. So, wrong.
Why?
They actually started today. No, the opening ceremonies aren't until Friday. But that's not the start. He's taken away from the program. You find us another sergeant. Okay. Anyway, come on. Anybody been to Paris? All right, lots of folks have been here. Throwing a dollar just for having that experience. Anybody going to the Olympics? Oh my goodness, if you're not going, throw in another dollar. Just for those of you who are
who are members. Those visitors, well, you can keep your hands out of your pocket. We won't get you today. Can these two tables right here, if you're a guest, again, you're excluded. Can either one of you two tables tell me who from Ohio is going to be in the opening ceremony?
LeBron James.
Right there, LeBron James. He just saved you guys $1. And what day was that on?
Friday.
Okay.
Well, sign
$1. Okay. Let's see here. Those two back tables. Can you guys tell me when the very first Olympics were held? What years? I'll give you within 250.
The ancient Olympics or?
Yes. The very first Olympics. Ancient. Now you don't get the answer on that, so two days. If you answer, then you're gonna throw in $1 for every one of them. Anybody? Any guesses? Come on, throw out a guess. Answer is 776 BC. That's a long, long time. You guys weren't even close. You weren't even close.
Well, Fort was there.
All right, next two tables up here, right in front of them. How long did that first Olympics last?
It's 400 meters.
It lasted 6 months. 6 months, so it was there for a while. For the longest time, the Olympics were suspended. Can you tell me, this table right here, what year were the Olympics suspended? The modern Olympics didn't start.
1938.
So the ancient Olympics ended, or at least quit, in 393 AD. That was a wow. That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Now, the modern Olympics started how many years after that?
Can't do the math. How about 1904?
No, too many. You were close. 1,500 years later. The modern Olympics didn't start until 1,500 years afterwards. Is that it? We get all the tables? Fun fact, until 1912, the gold medal you won in the Olympics was actually 100% gold. So, and anybody tell me what the original 6 events were?
Break dancing. No,
What kind of list is this? The original 6 events were wrestling, boxing, long jump, javelin, discus, and my favorite, chariot racing. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, it's great to make sure you get to all the tables. I see money laying out here. I will now call Lisa to the podium to introduce our speaker today.
Thank you so much. I am so excited to introduce you to Alex Shear, or Alex Sheen, forgive me, sorry. Forgive me. Funny story. I met Alex through an email connection that I got from my friend Elena. And I'm sorry, I didn't know anything about your organization. I didn't know even anything about you. But once I learned about it, I was shocked. The work that you do in helping grieving families, the work that you do in helping people to do what they say they're going to do is something that is much needed in these times. So thank you for that. Our guest speaker has been sharing the importance of a promise with people around the world. Alex Sheen is the founder of Because I Said I Would, a social movement and nonprofit dedicated to the betterment of humanity through promises made and kept. He is someone who truly honors commitment. Alex once walked over 240 miles across the entire state of Ohio in 10 days to fulfill a promise. Alex has impacted millions of people with the Because I Said I Would message through the viral nature of social media. His work has been featured on ABC World News with Diane Sawyer, CNN, the Los Angeles Times, the Today Show, and many other programs. So please help me welcome Alex Sheen.
Hey everybody, how are you doing today? You all right? Yeah. So I actually just moved to Lewis Center 3 weeks ago, but I spend most of my time traveling. I travel like 300 days a year or something awful like that. Most of the time I'm just staring at my phone, right? Just trying to get through life. I'll be in an Uber somewhere, looking at videos of, you know, dogs being bros or something, you know, like a dog riding a horse. I like that. Maybe I spend my time watching the other side of the spectrum, animals being jerks. Somehow that also does it for me, so I like that. But lately, as I've been traveling, I'm into this trend called "Are you a robot?" dog comparisons, right? So like like you log into something and you have to prove you're not a robot, right? So like, which one of these pictures has like a train track on it? Something confusing. It's like that, except is this like a bucket of fried chicken or like a golden doodle, you know? Or is that a chihuahua or a blueberry muffin? You know, it's a little harder than you might think. You know, Sharpay, chocolate ice cream, you get it. Anyways, the point is that you know, we all spend so much time digesting media, whether that's on TV or social media. We live in this age where things go viral so instantaneously that we might have wondered at some point in our lives, you know, I wonder what it's like to go viral. You know, wonder what it would be like to be that person who posted that thing that went everywhere. And I'm not talking about 10,000 views or 1 million. You know, what if it was like 150 million views? What if it just didn't kind of stop? Well, that accidentally happened to me once, and then it kind of just kept happening over and over again in these different ways. It is a very strange experience behind that screen. It actually teaches you a great deal about leadership, human behavior. But my story of going viral has nothing to do with kittens or mittens, you know, something like that. You know, my story actually, in many ways, starts with Columbus, Ohio. Started with my dad, shown here. My father was a pharmacist in the Ohio health system, primarily at Riverside Hospital, for 25 years. But growing up, I just thought of him as an average guy, you know? I even remember when I was a little kid, like a wee little kid. I remember walking up to my dad, and I'd look up at him, and I'd say, "Man, Dad, you are not good looking," you know? That's a horrific thing to say to your father, but especially for me, because I would grow up to look exactly like him. So this is terrific news for me. No, it's true. My father was average looking. He was average a lot of things. My father wasn't a war hero. He didn't write books. He didn't run marathons. In fact, if you would have ever known him in some other life, you would never go home and talk about Al Sheen. He was too average, too everyday, too normal for you to say anything about him. Unnoticeable. Except for this one thing. My father was a man of his word. To me and to my brother, if he said he was going to be there for you, he showed up. My father was far from a perfect person, but he kept his promises. And it turns out, when it comes to keeping promises, well, seems like a lot of people don't do that anymore. So one day, my father, sort of dweeby pharmacist guy, you know, he's sitting at home, year's 2011, Ohio. He's at our house. He hears his phone ring at the kitchen table. He turns it over and it's a hospital call. Well, of course, again, this is where he works. So he's got to answer. He swipes, he answers. On the other line is a doctor, a friend of his that he works with at the hospital. And in his phone conversation, my father is informed that he has been diagnosed with stage 4 small cell lung cancer. And my dad was a go down swing kind of man. He came to our country as an immigrant, and I say that only because sometimes it's not so easy making it on your own. You know, especially back then, all the names, you're gonna have to have some pretty tough skin if you want to get by. And so with this attitude and this resiliency throughout his life, at this point of his diagnosis, my father elected for the most aggressive treatment, for radiation and chemotherapy. Now, of course, all of us have heard this word before, chemotherapy. But you walk down the street, you ask people what it is. Most people don't actually know what chemotherapy is. I remember my dad explaining it to me once. He said, Alex, it's not going to sound right at first, but just how science works. Chemotherapy is quite literally a poison. It was developed prior to World War II and is based on what sounds like a primitive concept. You see, cancer is so difficult to defeat that the thought was to poison the body so deeply that the cancer simply could not live in its conditions. Now, as extreme as that may all sound, life doesn't always give us choice. For so many patients, this is the only door out, if there is even one. My dad knew that, pharmacist for 25 years. The odds against him were terrible. Sometimes we got to go down swinging, right? So my dad, he takes the treatment, and it actually starts to work. This cancer that grew so close to his heart that it was surgically inoperable, couldn't be cut out. It began to shrink because of this treatment. I mean, so small that you couldn't see it on any of these medical scans. They kept doing it on my dad over and over and over again, and even him, the most genuine of skeptics, I assure you. I mean, he deemed it some sort of miracle that perhaps he was saved. Now, I don't know if your family's ever dodged something like this. This is obviously good news, right? This is a positive turnaround for his health, so I felt like we had to celebrate. I mean, I don't know. I went to college. I know how to celebrate, right? Go Bobcats. Anyways, so I go to my old man and say, Dad, anything you want. Anywhere you want to go, we got to celebrate this turnaround for your health. Okay, let's hear it, Dad. Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? What does he say? He says, I want Chinese food. Same damn Chinese restaurant every single time. It didn't matter what the occasion was. If you're familiar with Sunflower, right? Chunks over there. They own the place, and we're friends with them. And so we go to this place, and no, General Tso's chicken is not real Chinese food, but it's still good. And so it was a good meal, a good day, the kind of day that I think a lot about. And the kind of day that unfortunately I'll never have another one of. Because as you probably already noticed, I talk about my father in the past tense. Cancer would return to his lungs and spread into his liver, into his pancreas, and into his brain. On September 4th of 2012, it was a bright morning. The house I grew up in Powell. As a grown man, I would go to my father's bedside and I played some music for him that I thought he might like. Told him that he did the best that he could to raise us. And then my brother and I, we could take it from you. I desperately tried to comfort my father as I watched him die in that movie. Now, you and me, we're only strangers, and I don't know if you've ever lost someone that you've loved, so I can only say that I have. His name is Al Sheen. He had 2 boys. I'm one of them. He put a roof over my head, paid for me to go to college. My dad would never wear a shirt around in the house, which I thought was weird and embarrassing for everybody. I don't know why dads have to do that. It's super creepy. Better or worse, I was named after him. And in the course of all of our losses, we have so many questions. Like, why him and why now? Why does it have to be me and my family? And in this struggle, we are afforded very few answers. In my struggle, I was asked by my family to give my father's eulogy, to speak to his greatest characteristic, his greatest quality as a man. And I kept coming back to this thought, the importance of a promise. You see, too often in this life, people say things like, I'll get to it, or tomorrow. The last thing that my dad ever taught me is that one day for our promises, there might not be a tomorrow. And the commitments that we make and we keep, and those we choose to dishonor, that is what defines us and our character. It always has. Long before my father was ever born, and long after I go. One measure of honor that humanity has always used, how we treat our word. The title of my father's eulogy was Because I Said I Would. For the very first time at his funeral, I would hand out one of these. I called it a promise card. On the front, it says, Because I Said I Would. On the back, there's nothing else. It's very simple to use. What you do is you take a promise in your life. Maybe it's something small you said today, or maybe even better, a promise you made to help others in need. no matter what that commitment is, to yourself or to another, you write that promise on this card. You tell them, I'm gonna fulfill this promise, and when I do, I earn this card back. It's a symbol of my honor, my respect, it's my property, I'm coming back for it. You go, you fulfill your promise, you come back to that person, you earn your card back, and you keep it as a reminder that maybe you're a person of your word. You know, maybe someone like Al Sheen was to his boys. So his funeral ends and I just go home. However, it is the next thing that I would do that would set off a chain of events to the scope of which I may never understand. That is where that darn internet comes in. You see, I made this post to social media, an offer. I said that I would mail, like physically mail, okay? I said that I would mail 10 promise cards to anybody, anywhere in the world, at no cost to anyone, which is the dumbest financial decision I've ever made in my entire life. First lesson today, I don't know, don't offer free stuff to strangers on the internet. You know? I should go without saying, but I'm not that bright, you know? This is a picture of the first 5 sets of cards I ever sent out. Now, 5 requests in a day is no big deal. You wake up early, go to sleep a little late, you get in there, it's not ass. But that's 5 requests in a day. What if you were to receive 50 requests in a day, or 500, or one morning? You wake up, you look down at your phone, that little red notification bubble, it says 15,000? What do you do then? Well, I would have to figure that out. And that's because since September 4th, 2012, the day that my father left, we have distributed over 9.81 million promise cards to over 178 countries around the world and by request only. 178 countries. This card, 178 countries. I mean, the damn thing is in English, you know, I don't understand, like, clearly they don't all speak that. But it turns out it doesn't matter, at least for this one thing. At least for this one thing, it doesn't matter what language you speak, the color of your skin, how much money you make, how old you are, or who you love. We all understand the importance of a promise. It is core and elemental to human existence. I would learn that lesson not just from my father, but from humanity itself. Because people started to post pictures of their promise cards. And maybe that's a commitment to someone who's close to you, right? It's a family member, maybe. Like this young girl writes, I promise to make life worth living for my sister with Down syndrome every day of her life, and to take care of her when my parents are no longer able to. A promise to be in recognition of a simple fact. Like this young man in the Czech Republic, he knows, he is certain that somebody somewhere has got to need that ½ liter of blood, or need us. So he commits to helping the sick or the injured. Single pint of donated blood, save up to 3 lives. That's right. But sometimes the cards were used in creative ways, not always an exchange between 2 people. Maybe just a personal reminder. Like this one woman wrote, I promise not to text or Facebook while driving, but instead of giving that card to anybody, she just kept it in the console of her car, you know? And every time she would get in her car, she would take that card out, put it on her phone and twist it as like a physical lock screen, a reminder that she cared more about the safety of a stranger than a text that most certainly can wait. Now, in all the places that promise cards have been used and all the people who have used them, I do have a favorite, right? I play favorites, right? And that's when I see promise cards from little kids, right? Like a 5-year-old trying to order the future with little brains, right? It's adorable. Like this 5th grader in Fresno, California writes, I will never get in jail. The set instruction is a little off, but it counts. Some promise cards would go viral on their own, millions of views. Person gets their own book deal. They're on the Today Show. Like this thing has really weird roots and branches. And this next story is one version of that. From a dad. Now, by raising hands, how many parents might we have in the room, right? Good solid chunk. This is a promise from a dad named Garth Callahan. Now, Garth is like a cheesy dad, right? Some of you might know a cheesy dad. Some of you might be married to a cheesy dad. A few of you look like cheesy dads, you know, to be honest with you. But this guy's like level 9,000. Like this guy dresses up as like full-blown Star Wars characters, right? Like a Jedi, right? And then he just goes places. You know what I'm saying? Like this is not Halloween. This is like a Tuesday. He nerds out, embarrasses his daughter everywhere. That's the most important part of the story. Garth has one daughter, one child, that's it. Her name's Emma. Pictured here in the 2nd grade, pictured here in the 8th grade. Now, ever since Emma was about in the 2nd grade, she started receiving these little napkin notes in her lunchbox. Do you know what I'm talking about? Right? little words of encouragement scribbled on a napkin from her dad. All right, so picture this, you're an 8-year-old girl, right? You're skipping to the lunchroom or whatever 8-year-old girls do to get from A to B, and you sit down at the lunch table, you take out the PB&J, the apple slices, the chips, and then you see something like this, you know, yesterday's home runs, don't win today's games, Babe Ruth. He thought this was good because she played softball, and parents don't always know what to say, right? It doesn't always land, but the guy's just trying, you know? By writing these notes every day, he's just trying. Can't ding him for that. Now, my dad never wrote me any sort of napkin notes, and that's kind of right. However, there's something else that unfortunately Emma's father and my father, something else they have in common. And that is in his kidney. Garth has been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer of the kidney. Talking to the doctor, he doesn't quite understand what that means because he works in IT. So he said, well, just remove the kidney, right? Or, you know, or chemotherapy, whatever it is, you know, we'll just move forward, it'll be all right. The doctor looks Garth in the eye and he says, Garth, I'm sorry, but you're gonna die of this. Garth is given an 8% chance of living past 5 years. These 2 pictures were taken 46 days apart. Wow. Sitting alone at the kitchen table thinking about his time on this earth and the legacy he wants to leave his daughter, not so much as some kind of monument or a plaque, but just how is he going to be there for her when he very rarely can. And in this moment of thought, he oddly goes grabs a bunch of calendars, which is kind of weird. And then he starts his calculation, some math, and he writes a promise card. Garth wrote, I will write 826 napkin notes for Emma. You see, that is the exact number of days of class that Emma has left until she graduates from high school. So that no matter what happens to him, no matter the day, the last goodbye, even if he can't be there, oh, that note's still going to be. Because every single one of them has already been written in advance, just in case. Dear Emma, sometimes when I need a miracle, I just look into your eyes and realize that I've already created one. Love, Dad. We support people who are facing life adversities where they are not sure what to do. The path in front of them is so murky, and there's just so many choices and options, and sometimes that's why a promise feels so difficult, right? It's like all these options in front of me and the anxiety of what to do, looping thoughts all day on a decision. And that's how a lot of people view a promise, all these choices. But to me, I see it a little bit differently. It's almost like a promise is not, it's almost like it's the elimination of choice. Telling yourself that, you know what, there's no more A or B, there's no more maybes, it's not an if or then, this is happening one way only, and at least I have some control of it. Because I said I would start it at my father's funeral, no more than 6 miles from here. But what I realized is that promise card or some flowery speech that I may be giving now, that wasn't going to be enough. Because intent is great, but intent and $4 buys you a cup of coffee. You know? What I realized that our folks needed mental health habits. They needed resiliency skills. They needed to understand things like anger management, stress management, the 4 types of self-control, even time management. You want to keep a promise? You want to fight through adversity, limited resources? You need to get through a change? You know, these are the types of things that you need. And so that's what we work on in schools, 16 prisons across the United States and here locally at our camp, which I'll talk about in a second. But I want to give one example of one of those workshops, just in like a 2-minute sample. Has anybody, by raising a hand, heard of Edward D'Amato's 6 Thinking Hats? Okay, we got one because he's my friend. So Edward D'Amato is a clinical psychologist, and he developed this model. It's not a perfect science, of course, but like a profile of how people view new ideas, right? Like if I were to pitch a new idea to you, how would you react? There might be 6 ways to that, right? So the first, if you're a white hat, and think about which one might resonate with you in these 6. A white hat wants to know figures, numbers, statistics, math, margins, right? Give me research numbers, right? if a new idea is pitched to a red hat's the type of person who wants to think, well, how's that gonna make people feel? Organizational culture, right? Relationships, compassion, emotions. A black hat's gonna hear your idea and say, that idea is the worst idea I've ever heard. and they're gonna poke holes in it, but they're cautious. They're trying to keep the idea safe, making sure it's viable. So that's not a bad thing. Yellow hat's gonna be like, that's the best idea I've ever heard in my whole life. You're smart, this is awesome, right? A green hat is going to hear your idea, of course, but it's kind of going to go through them, and they're going to just start pitching ideas back at you. Oh, we could do this, and we could do that, and we could do this, and we could do that. And then a blue hat's going to think through logistics, right? Or they're going to think through operations. They're going to want to understand it organizationally. So which one of these 6 are you? Just by raising a hand, who feels like they might be initially like a white hat? Like that's a first reaction. Raise your hand. Okay, those are the white hats. How about red hats? We got some red hats in the room. Okay. How about black hats? Right, no one wants to admit it. You all are black hats. Okay, just red, yellow hats. Okay, got one in the back there. Green hats. Okay, got a few, and then blue hats. Right, actually getting stuff done. I like the blues. So that's just one example of a perspective that can help you through adversity. Because at our 92-acre camp, that's about 45 miles away from here, we help grieving families. And we're talking about people who have gone through tragic loss. And with that, they need to, their whole entire lives have changed. Because not only is it the dramatic loss of a loved one, but let's say in one case, a husband commits suicide. In that moment, now the wife has to not only go through that grief, but also if she doesn't go get a job for the first time in 15 years, they're going to lose their house too. So understanding resiliency perspectives is incredibly important. Now this camp that we have, kind of near Mount Vernon, it's actually like you go 62 from New Albany to Johnstown, keep going on 62, and we're out there in Knox County. Used to be a vineyard, an event venue, a resort cabin business. We're going to build new youth cabins eventually, but in the meantime, we have all these fancy bougie cabins, and that's where we support grieving families. But I also wanted to know, and why I came here today, is that we do events and retreats for resiliency skills and mental health habits for community impact professionals. Raise your hand if you're on the board of a nonprofit organization, right? We got like all of you, right? That's awesome. Thank you so much for your commitment. 75.1%. 75.1% of all Americans do not volunteer a single hour in an entire year, okay? What this Rotary Club and so many across the nation and the world are doing to help others is essential, because there's a lot of people sitting on the bench, but you're not. And those community impact professionals aren't either, but we need to keep them strong. We'll do these resiliency retreats with rape crisis centers, with Boys and Girls Club chapters, with nonprofits where turnover, unfortunately, is very high. We've got to keep these employees mentally strong so they stay in their jobs and honestly help Worthington, Dublin, and communities across Columbus. I mentioned helping families in bereavement, and then we're going to eventually do youth cabins and that program. You know, this is an example on the bereavement side of a woman writing in. I just lost my 2 sons, ages 18 and 15, in an automobile accident on December 16, 2022. I'm looking for any help with dealing with this loss. I have 2 other children, ages 12 and 3, who need support as well. I could stand up here and read you 70 other people who have come, the families who have come to camp. But what I'm trying to say in this moment is, if you, as a community members who are so in touch with the Worthington, Dublin area, if you hear of a family in grief, know that no family pays to come to camp, right? And have them come to our website and learn more about our work, because we need to help not only those adults, but those kids. When a child loses a parent or sibling, look at the difference between in green, these are kids who aren't grieving, and then these are kids who are grieving, who are bereaved. Look at the cases of post-traumatic stress disorder, substance abuse disorder. We're not even talking about like 30% increases, sometimes like 700% increases. We need to get these kids support and help, and that's again why our 92-acre property exists. And the other thing is, we're always looking for volunteers and organizations interested in sponsoring these grieving families, because again, you can imagine, it ain't cheap to run something like this. Such an enormous endeavor, unfortunately, requires a lot of resources, but I'm in it for them. Now, the last thing that I wanted to mention is an adversity that we've faced recently, and is my least favorite part of the speech, and you know why here in a second. So at 4:45 a.m. in the morning on June 4th of 2023, last year, I received 12 phone calls while I'm sleeping. I don't even wake up until someone's pounding on the front door of my house up in Lakewood, Ohio, near Cleveland. And what all these phone calls are from an employee down at camp. And I call her back and I say, what's going on? It's 4:40. She says, Alex, there are like 40 firefighters here. And apparently at some point this morning in our headquarters building, no one was hurt. That's the most important thing, but a fire must have started. And the fire chief is saying this is at a point of no return and our headquarters will be a total loss. This is a picture of our headquarters before. It included our offices, our dining hall, our kitchen and warehouse. And this is a video that morning that Andrea took with the fire teams standing by. Essentially, every promise card that anybody had ever given me was inside that building. All of our files, fundraising equipment, supplies, sheets, towels, blankets, everything. And to be honest with you, I'm kind of tired of writing comeback stories. Running a charity is very difficult. It will be 12 years in September. But one day long ago, on the saddest day of my life, I took a 1-cent piece of paper, and over the course of a decade, I made something of it. And so I ain't giving up for nothing. How about that? That's why those volunteer groups across the country who have been coming to help us, who know that it's not just a moment in time, it takes years to recover from a loss like this. But the good news is 10 of our other buildings unharmed. We deleted that structure, and people come to camp, they don't even know it ever existed. Our employees have to work out of a job site trailer, so that's different. But we teach resiliency skills, so we better have them ourselves. This is what the building looks like now, and we'll put shovels in ground in September to build a new headquarters. I want to thank Rotary not only for the opportunity to come speak today, but for your promises and commitments. The truth is, we may never see each other again, and this might be our only interaction. And so while it may seem like this is a call to action to help our charity, I mean, I got to do that because that's my job. But what I really want to leave you with is thank you for your support, for being board members, for being volunteers. When I hear in the tone of your voices and in Rotary clubs across the country, I've spoken at not 100, but maybe like 50 of them. And I hear like, hey, anybody, you're coming to plant trees, right? Like I hear that tone begging for commitment because we know how hard it is to get it, but the people who keep promises, those are people in this room showing up on a weekly and monthly basis for their communities. So you don't have to support because they said I would. We don't ever have to see each other again. You just keep doing what you're doing, and that would be plenty for me. So thank you again, and to the best for you and your promises. Yes, sure.
In the opening, the collage that you showed.
Yeah.
You were standing in front of a house, I think.
Let's see.
A fence, which had to be about 8 feet high.
Which
one?
one?
I'm wondering what's the story behind that?
Yeah, a fence.
The one that after you were hiking.
It's a chain link.
Oh, yeah. So that was probably a video that was playing inside of this one. So if you remember Amanda Berry, Gina De Jesus, and Michelle Knight, there were 3 women in Cleveland who were kidnapped and held captive for 10 years. Yeah. I made a promise to walk across the entire state of Ohio in 10 days to fundraise for them so early on in their recovery.
There it is.
Yeah, so that's the house of their imprisonment because I lived 6 miles from that house. And so I started from the Ohio River and I did that fundraising walk all the way to Lake Erie, well, to that house of imprisonment, and then I jumped in the lake for fun. But Yeah, it was to raise money for the victims of sexual violence and domestic abuse. So in the early days, I would make all these different promises, like to volunteer at 52 different nonprofits in a year. I made a promise to sleep in a cardboard box in the winter outside to raise money for the homeless for 2 weeks. I would do all these like small things to learn resiliency skills myself and to help others. Then eventually realize this individual one-off single person effort isn't going to make the type of impact the world needs. So we have to build real programs. Back then, I didn't know what nonprofits were. I was just young, naive. I just didn't understand it. And then eventually would understand that real programs would be needed. And so we started to develop those, again, around resiliency skills and mental health habits.
Well, you could make a promise to become a member within 50 days.
Look at that. Never stop selling. Never stop selling. I like this guy's energy. That's awesome. And I would honestly, not a joke, I would love if your chapter would love to come out to camp and check it out, do a volunteer project, or even just a networking event. Walk a mile of our canopy trails. We have our vineyard is teeming with grapes right now. We have 3 different species across 2 acres in the vineyard. We have 5 hot tubs, a 3-tier cedar sauna, a lake, canoes, kayaks, archery range. I hired a professional escape room designer, and we have a professionally designed escape room. It's an awesome property. And so while our headquarters building is gone, honestly, there's so much else that was really just for really large event type of events. And we do events with 30 to 50 people now.
Let's have a rah-rah there.
Yeah. I don't know what that is, but I like the energy, right? Awesome. Any other questions, curiosities about the charity? How shiny is Steve Harvey's head in real life? Any questions? All right. Well, keep fighting the good fight for Columbus, and thank you again.
Thank you. Okay, do we have a raffle today? I think we do.
Oh, yeah, we're gonna pass out cards while you go through the rest of stuff. So
we're looking for a deck of who unpacked us today.
I think I saw one in here.
Here we go.
All right. You write a check?
While we're waiting for the card, I just want to that Alex is going to be available. That's there. Items from, because I said I would, are available for donation, and 100% of the proceeds go to the profit organization. So I want to make sure that we do that. Thank you, Alex.
It's more than a few. It's less than that. That's good.
Well, it was a very inspiring message, and now we're on to the motivational part. We had a good day with raffle.
There's my ticket.
Even the tickets were motivated.
That's right.
Well shut up.
So there's $41 in the raffle. $7214. There you go. There you are. One of the neat things that happened today was some folks were in it. They didn't stay for the meeting, but they were in here measuring, and then they went downstairs and they saw the raffle and they stopped at the table and said, "Can we buy some?" And we said, "Well, you have to be present for the raffle." So that's okay. If we win, just put it back in the club. So that was nice. So this is for $583. Since I've been here, that's about the most I've ever seen in the card. So whoever gets this comes up and pays for the 8 of spades. Joey, you pick it. I got too many cards for that much money.
Don't change.
This was less than those. That was a full day.
Well, there's 2 of them. Oh,
This one, there's 4.
okay.
Maybe that's.
155. 7155. Oh, wow. Okay. You wanted to win that today. I
know.
And so was I.
Well drawn.
Yeah, well.
Good draw. Thank you for playing.
Okay, please stand and join me in the four-way test. On behalf of all the things we think, see, and do. First. Second. Third. Fourth. Thank you, we are adjourned.
Yeah.